Fall is here. This is my favorite time of year, and with the temperatures trending colder and snow eventually covering the ground, what better time to go over some of the gear I've been using on 3-season trips this year than now. Hey everyone, Matt here with Reach Your Summit. Thanks for joining me. After getting a lot of great feedback from all of you, going over a follow-up video with the Gossamer gear, the DCF 110, I thought I would put together this video going over a follow-up on some of the gear, clothing, and footwear that I've been using on the trail this year. Now in the video link description for this video, I'll put the links for the other two videos. One going over the gear that I've been using in 2021 on 3-season trips, and also the clothing and footwear that I had been using on the trail this year as well. I'm going to compile all of that together into one single video. This one's going to go over everything. I'm going to go over things that I liked and things I didn't like, and also some things that I ended up changing up in the middle of the year. So let's kick it off with the gear that I've been using this year. Kicking things off, we have my Waymark Mile. This has a total capacity of 30 liters, and I have a little over 600 miles with this pack so far. This pack has been my go-to for many backpacking trips and also day hikes, but I've also used this pack traveling too. Very versatile, and I find that I can get 3 to 4 days out of this pack comfortably for 3-season trips. I really love the feel that I have with this pack. It feels like an extension of my body, very stable, it carries weight very comfortably with the wide shoulder straps. I've had upwards of 20 pounds in this pack on occasion just to see how it would carry. I definitely felt the weight a little bit, especially because there aren't any load lifters, but that's another thing that I really like about this pack is that it doesn't have them. My base weight is typically between 6.5 and 8 pounds, depending on the trip location, the time of year, and my objectives. So I'm not usually pushing past 15 or 16 pounds with this pack, and I find it to handle that really well. I also really like how the pack articulates and moves with my body when I'm hiking on the trail, when I'm scrambling on rocks, and that's due to the nylon webbing that is sewn in from the shoulder strap to the back of the pack. It allows for a really good range of movement. I also added a couple of shoulder strap pockets to this pack so I can access items frequently. Also put my phone in there or my camera, or more importantly, snacks. That's one thing that I kind of miss with this pack, is not having the snack pocket on the bottom, but I do have that with my Superior Wilderness Designs pack, so it's not a deal breaker for me. I really love having roll top closures with my packs, and the X-Pack material has been superb, keeping everything nice and protected, nice and dry when it does rain. I did add some seam grip to the inside of the pack where the sewing was, and that helped out quite a bit, along with my Nylaflume pack liner. The material is also very abrasion resistant. I find it to be a little more robust than Dyneema composite fabric, but I haven't had any issues with packs made out of that material either. This really large outer pocket also allows me to keep additional quick access items inside of it. My rain gear usually goes in there, my tent stakes. The bottle pockets, I love the angles on the sides, just because it allows me to get my bottles out without having to take the pack off. That's a very difficult feat to have with a lot of packs. So I really like that this pack allows me to do that. Overall, I've been really happy with this pack. It's definitely one of my favorite packs to date, and I look forward to getting a lot more mileage out of this pack in the future. My Black Diamond Distance carbon poles have been excellent. They're freakishly light, and I really like that I don't have to worry about any parts failing with these poles. Very stable. They help carry my pack weight. I typically use these to set up my shelters too, whether I'm using a tarp setup or a tent setup. They have worked really well with my Gossamer Gear tent this year. The grip is something that I've become used to. Those of you that follow this channel or have been out on the trail with me know that I've been a big fan of the Black Diamond Carbon Z poles over the years. And I have over 2,600 miles with those poles. They're still going strong. I normally don't collapse the poles. I'm always carrying them, using them. Having a nice solid pole that has no adjustment has been very beneficial for me. No issues with wear and tear. These poles are still holding up. They've been able to tolerate abuse up in the White Mountains in New Hampshire. They were also my chosen pole for the Allegheny 100 this year out on the North Country Trail. And I've used them all around New England, up in Vermont on the New England Trail, and various other trail systems. All right, following in order with my previous videos, next up was the Katadyn Be Free. I did use that on a few trips this year along with the Hydropack Seeker 2-liter, but I came across a new filter that really intrigued me, and I ended up using that quite a bit this year. I'm not going to go into great detail with it just because I have a video up on it already. I'll put a link in the description below for that water filter, but that filter was the Platypus Quick Draw. This is very versatile, very similar in weight to the Katadyn Be Free, and has a really quick flow rate of 3 liters a minute. I've filtered over 100 liters with it so far, and it has not clogged on me once. Along with using the quick draw system, I've been trying to reduce my environmental impact, drifting away from Smart Water and Life Water bottles. So I picked up a couple of platypus bags, which mate with this filter if this bag were to break or burst on me. On longer trips or areas where my water might be a little less reliable, I like carrying the Platypus soft bottle. This is a 2+ liter, so a little over 2 liters. On trips where my water sources are a little more reliable, I've been reducing the weight and also the bulk and going with a 1 liter Platypus soft bottle. Not only do these mate with the Platypus Quick Draw, they're reducing my footprint and they're very durable. I like that they're clear too, so I can see if I might have possibly missed any debris when collecting my water and filtering it into these bottles. Thermarest Uberlight has provided me great night's rest on the trail. I have over 90 nights with this pad now. This is the regular wide. I find that it works really well in allowing me to side sleep, toss and turn at night. It's very comfortable. I really like the wing lock valve so much that I actually ended up getting a new Thermarest NeoAir X-Lite pad with this valve. It's very efficient, and I don't have any issues with durability with this pad. I use this on the Allegheny 100 this year. I've also used this throughout New England and in some pretty precarious looking spots too. I was in some designated camp areas up in New Hampshire in the White Mountains, just because I like to follow rules and regulations of the areas I'm traveling in, lessen my impact, practice good leave no trace principles. And sometimes those campsites can have really hard packed dirt along with some really jagged looking rocks and some roots. So on a few occasions when I was at those sites, I ended up finding some bark that was already decayed and laying on the ground and just placed it over the rocks and roots for the night, and it helped out immensely. No punctures, no issues with losing air. I've used it down to about 36 degrees Fahrenheit with another pad, which I'm going to get into in just a second, but I've also used it in temperatures ranging up to the mid-70s at night. It's been a very crazy summer, spring, and fall here in the Northeast, and this has held up on all of those nights that I've been out with it. One of my absolute favorite pads, packs down really small, nice and light, and I look forward to getting many more nights of good rest with this pad. So the Gossamer Gear Thin Light 1/8 inch pad has been helping me out a lot on the trail this year. This is what I used in conjunction with the Thermarest Uberlight pad. Not only did it help give additional protection with that pad, but it kept my pad in place from sliding around on the Dyneema composite floors that I have with my Hyperlite Dirigo 2 and also my custom-made Boragear Dyneema Bivy. In addition to the protection and keeping the pad in place, this also increases the R value just a little bit, and it was enough to get me comfortably down to 36 degrees with the Uberlight. Results will vary based on the hiker. I tend to sleep warm, so that's how I was able to get down to that, along with my sleep clothing that I used on that trip. But this is highly versatile. I also will lay it out on the side of the trail during the day to take a quick nap to aid in recovery if I need it. Also works really well as a sit pad, and I use it as some additional cushion and support with that Waymark Mile pack that I've been wearing, and one of my favorite pieces of gear in my pack. So the Sea to Summit Spark Zero, I really liked some things about it, but I found that it just wasn't for me. I really liked how small it packed down. It fit right inside a 1.5 liter stuff sack, had 850 fill power down, and it weighed under 8 ounces. I slept really comfortably in it down to about 45 degrees, and I used it on the Allegheny 100 this year. I also used it on a backpacking trip that I led for National Trails Day, or Connecticut Trails Weekend here in Connecticut, and I used it up in Vermont on the Long Trail. What I didn't like about it was the restrictiveness, and that restrictiveness is what led me to using my go-to, the Enlightened Equipment Enigma quilt. This is a 30-degree quilt. I really like the Enigma because I like having a sewn-in toe box. It helps trap a little bit more heat so I'm not getting any cool drafts with my feet. I do have an Enlightened Equipment Revelation also. For my personal preference, I really like the Enigma. This has been my go-to. Packs down nice and small, nice and lightweight, and so this is what I ended up using on most of my trips for 3 seasons this year. There's nothing wrong with the Sea to Summit Spark Zero. It would make a great additional insulation piece if you needed it, or a good standalone bag. It just wasn't for me. My Dutchwear half-zipped hammock. This has a similar design set up to my Dream Hammock Darien that I really like, and I've been really enjoying this hammock quite a bit. I have it in a Dyneema composite fabric bishop bag, and it uses the Cloud 71 fabric, which I really enjoy. I find that it doesn't have a lot of stretch to it, kind of a medium firmness, which I really like, and it feels a lot softer and more comfortable than the 1.0 Monolite. No issues with durability. It's held up really well with my weight and the additional weight that I put in it, because I do use a peak shelf to store my gear inside of here and a Ridgeline organizer. No issues with the mesh at all. The mesh has been excellent. I have about 25 nights in this hammock. Definitely identified more as a hammocker, but there's a system that I've been really growing fond of that I'm going to go over in just a few minutes in this video. One of the things I really like about this Cloud 71 fabric, aside from its lightweight, is being able to see all around me. You don't get that with most hammock fabrics, and I really like having that wild connection when I'm out on the trail. Overall, really happy with this hammock, and I look forward to getting a lot more nights out of it on the trail. So this next shelter system is something that I didn't normally gravitate toward when I was out on trips, but I've been using it a lot this year. I've been very impressed with it, and I find that I'm getting drawn more and more into bringing it out with me on trips. And that's the Hyperlite Mountain Gear Square Dyneema Composite Fabric Tarp. This is 8 foot 6 inches by 8 foot 6 inches, and it's becoming one of my favorite shelters. Highly versatile. I've used it on many trips this year, including a paddling trip down the Connecticut River. This was my protection from the elements for the night, and I used a flying diamond configuration with my paddleboard. My paddleboard ended up being one of the anchors. I ended up just deflating the board a little bit and sleeping on that at night. It worked really well. I stayed very comfortable, and I still had that wild connection out by the river. I've also used this out in the open on the Appalachian Trail and some really heavy downpours and strong storms, and it kept me really dry. I love the multiple configurations that I can come up with this tarp. This tarp can adapt to almost anything. Now, I didn't use this all of the time on its own. Up here in the Northeast, it's been very humid this year, and I did need a little additional protection from the bugs. I ended up packing with me a custom-made bivvy. This is a very lightweight, a little over 4-ounce bivvy from Bora Gear. I chose the Dyneema composite fabric floor to it and argon fabric on the top. I've used this bivvy on its own on some nights. I've also used it in conjunction with the tarp. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I do identify more as a hammocker, but at this stage in my life, I've been finding that I really enjoy using a tarp setup. It's not something that I'm going to use all of the time, but I really love the wild connection that you get with your surroundings while using a tarp setup. Another piece of gear that I featured in my previous video of gear I was going to be using this year was the Dan Durston X-Mid 110. Honestly, I only used it for a couple of nights this year just to get a feel for it. And then I ended up loaning it out on backpacking trips that I led to clients. And the feedback from them was great. Very easy to set up, very spacious vestibules, plenty of room to be inside, great storm and wind protection. The reason I didn't end up using that tent this year is because I stumbled across another tent that really intrigued me, and I ended up purchasing that tent and using it quite a bit. Not going to get into great detail with that tent. I'll put a link in the description below where you can see a 1,000 plus mile review of that tent, and also a first look if you want to see more of the setup and closer details. That tent was the Gossamer Gear, the DCF-1. This is still holding up really well. One of my absolute favorite tents that I own at the moment. Very simple, very spacious, and under a pound in weight. So if you want to see more about this tent, check out those links down below. And lastly, for the gear, the Nightcore NU25. This has been a great little headlamp. I love that it has the red light feature so I can preserve my vision at night. This has also worked really well on night hikes. Very lightweight. I love that it's USB rechargeable. Again, I'm trying to lessen my impact on the environment, and not having to carry batteries is very beneficial toward that, but also helps me reduce weight and keep things a little bit simpler. All right, so that was the gear. Let's get into the clothing and footwear. So those of you that follow this channel or have seen some of my videos on this channel or have been out on the trails with me know that I'm a big fan of Ultra footwear and the Lone Peak shoe in particular. So this year, so far, I have around 350 miles with the Lone Peak 5. It is definitely one of my favorite Lone Peaks to date. It's a little bit wider than the 4.5s. I love that they switched to the Ego foam. It gives me a nice plush feel, similar to what I liked about the Lone Peak 4s. There's a little more rigidity to the shoe, and it's a little more durable, along with the sewn toe caps. I've been really happy with the Lone Peak 5, and I look forward to getting a lot more mileage out of this shoe. But I've also been trying out a lot of other shoes this year. The Ultra Olympus 4 was the other one that I featured in the video, and I found that I didn't really prefer that too much. Now, that shoe helped me out greatly on the Allegheny 100. I ended up having really bad knee issues this year with my IT band, and having that additional cushion helped me get back to my car. It was an out and back event this year. My knee was severely swollen, severely in pain, so I had to make the tough decision this year to turn around and hike back to my car, which totaled in 30 miles for the event. I was very bummed about it, especially because I put so much into it and I thought this was going to be my year. So I'll be back next year to complete that whole 100 miles. The other thing that I really liked about the Olympus 4 was the Vibram Mega Grip. It's tough to beat Vibram for traction with shoes, but the extra cushion was something that I just couldn't get used to. It took away from the ground feel that I really enjoy. It was something that just wasn't for me. So I went back from the Olympus 4s to the Lone Peak 5, but then I found that I wanted more and more ground feel. So I went down to the Superiors, and I've been wearing the Ultra Superior 5s a lot on the trail this year. It has a lower stack height compared to the Lone Peak 5, so I definitely had more ground feel with these shoes. I used the Stone Guard insert once, and then I removed it. I found that I liked having a little more flexibility and a little more feel of the terrain under my feet. And that led me to another shoe, which is the Zero Shoes Mesa Trail. These have a stack height of 10.5 millimeters with an insole. Without the insole, it drops down to 8 millimeters. The shoe still has that foot-shaped toe box that I really like, has the zero drop, very lightweight at a little over 8 ounces per shoe. It's very flexible, and I'm feeling everything that I'm hiking on, which I've been really enjoying. I love how my foot just wraps around, contours around all of the terrain that I'm stepping on, the roots and rocks. It helps me stay focused. It makes me a little more aware. I'm able to travel very lightly and quickly. So I'm looking forward to getting a lot more mileage with this shoe. This isn't a shoe that I've been wearing all of the time. I've been allowing my body to transition to it and still wearing the Lone Peaks and the Superiors. Since we're transitioning to the winter time soon, I may be putting a lot of that footwear away. I may choose to wear my waterproof socks, but most of the time I will be either wearing my favorite Ultra Lone Peak 4 mids. These use the event fabric. These have been my go-to for the winter time for the last few years now, and they're holding up really well. But I also wanted to try something out with a more minimal stack height compared to these. So I also have the Zero Shoes Alpine. They have insulation, which my Lone Peak shoes do not have. These have 200 grams of insulation, and they also have a heat reflective insole. So these should help out if it does get bitterly cold this winter. So check back to the channel. I'll be going into more detailed review once I get a lot more mileage with this shoe and with the Mesa Trail this year. But overall, I couldn't be more happier with the Lone Peak shoes this year and the updates that the shoe was given. My socks, can't say enough great things about them. They do the job really well. I'm a big fan of natural fibers, so the Smart Wool and Darn Tough with the merino wool is excellent. Great temperature regulation, very durable, moisture wicking, antimicrobial. I prefer the cycling socks, as I mentioned in my previous video. Just having the lighter cushion gives me more of that ground feel with those shoes that I just went over. Overall, I've been really happy with merino wool socks over the years, and specifically cycling socks or trail running socks for 3-season trips. These Goose Feet Gear down socks are more a winter item for me, but I do use them on shoulder season trips too. They can be very beneficial at providing me with a little extra warmth when I'm using my Enigma quilt or my Revelation quilt. Very comfortable, very lightweight, very packable. Definitely an item that I really enjoy having. My Arc'teryx Incendo shorts have worked really well, very durable. They dry really quickly. I've had them soaked in pouring rain that I've been out in while hiking on the trail, especially up in New Hampshire this year. So having that quick dry time has been very helpful for me. These are really comfortable. I get great mobility with the stretchy fabric. I really like having the pockets on the back. They're also very light in weight and they breathe really well. So my OR Echo Sun Hoodie has been excellent this year. It's very simple. It only has thumb holes and that's it. But it's given me great sun protection. I love having the hood. It dries very quickly. It breathes really well. yet adds just a little bit of warmth to my skin when I'm hiking. Great abrasion resistance and a little bit of bug protection too. And it's just very simple, nice and light in weight, and I've been really happy with it on the backpacking trips I've worn it on. I have also been testing out a couple of other sun hoodies this year. Going along with the natural fibers, I've also been using the Smart Wool 150 weight merino wool sun hoodie. This one does have a pocket, but it does not have a cinch cord for the hood, and it does not have thumb holes. I find the hood to be a little bigger than the OR sun hoodie, so not having a draw cord can be a little bit of a drawback. I got this more for the antimicrobial properties that this hoodie would have. It's given me great sun protection. It's a little thicker than the OR hoodie, so it does end up weighing a bit more, but it gives me a little bit more warmth. The other one is the REI Sahara sun hoodie. This one I've worn on backpacking trips, but also bike trips and paddling trips. It has thumb holes. It does not have any pockets, but it is the only one out of the three I've been using that has a little cinch cord, so I can cinch the hood down around my head, keep it nice and secure in really windy conditions. This does use a more environmentally friendly polyester fabric. Great amount of stretch to it. It does dry very quickly. Probably the heaviest out of the three that I've been using. And all three have been great on the trips that I've been using them on this year. The Polartec Alpha. This fleece has been fantastic from Vado UL. I've used it in temperatures ranging between 40 and 60 degrees. It's been one of my sleep system items on some trips. Breathes really well. The wind will cut right through it if you're stationary, so you might need a little bit of a wind block. But this is mainly supposed to be an active layer anyway. It works really well in that regard. When it gets wet or if it gets damp, it does dry very quickly, but it is also going to be a little delicate. I've been really happy with the Polartec Alpha fabric, but with this fleece, I've also been testing out another one this year, and that is the Appalachian Gear Company Alpaca Fleece. This is all 100% alpaca, and it's very soft, very comfortable, not the lightest in weight, so if lightweight is one of my objectives, I will go with the Polartec Alpha fleece. But for trips where I don't mind the weight so much and I want to go with more natural fibers, this Appalachian Gear Company fleece has been fantastic. I've used it backpacking, I've used it on cycling trips, I've used it for day hikes, part of my sleep system, and also just time around camp. Wind can cut through this fabric a little bit, not as much as the Polartec Alpha. This has become one of my favorite fleeces. I've just used it so much. It has great antimicrobial properties. It dries really well if it gets damp or wet. It's going to be very simple. No pockets, no thumb holes, no cinch cord for the hood. It's odor resistant, and it's great at temperature regulation, similar to the merino wool. For trips where it might be really windy and I don't mind the additional weight, I still will use my classic Melanzana microgrid fleece. Mountain Hardwear Ghost Whisperer UL has been an excellent jacket. I honestly haven't needed it much this year though, so I only have about 18 nights with this jacket so far. Great to have around camp. It's kept me really warm. On the colder weather trips that I've worn this on, it's kept me very comfortable too, and worked well as part of my sleep system. The fabric is very, very delicate, so you do need to be a little careful with it, just because it is a 5 denier nylon, but I don't have any issues with holes or punctures or down coming out or anything. Doesn't really have a lot of water resistance, so I did add some TX Direct spray to it, just to give it a little more protection from the elements. I look forward to getting a lot more use out of this jacket as it starts to get colder now, but I also placed an order for another jacket and I look forward to checking that out. So check back to this channel in a little while if you'd like to see how I like the Enlightened Equipment Torrid Apex jacket. Lastly, the rain gear that I've been using this year, kind of using a combination of systems. In the video, I did feature the Arc'teryx Zeta SL pants and jacket. Those are a little burlier, and so I'm going to be designating those more as part of my winter setup. I had been using it in the winter earlier this year, and I found it to work really well. So one of those systems that I've been using was just my standard Outdoor Research Helium. This jacket has been great. It uses the diamond fuse technology, so it has more abrasion resistance, slightly better waterproofing than the previous Helium jackets. The pants that I used with that jacket were the Outdoor Research Helium pants, and these use the diamond fuse technology too. Overall, these have been really great pants and perform similarly to the Helium jacket. Those are both a little bit lighter than the Arc'teryx Zeta SL pants and jacket that I featured, but I wanted to go even lighter in weight. So that led me to the Arc'teryx Norvan SL hoodie. This has been one of my favorite rain pieces, mostly because it does not wet out. This uses Gore-Tex Shake Dry, so water just beads on it and rolls right off. I've been out in heavy downpours throughout the whole day and still remain relatively dry inside of this jacket. Great wind protection, weighs just over 4 ounces. Because the faced fabric is the waterproofing layer, you do have to be a little more careful with it. My pack weight being relatively light, I haven't found any issues with wear on this Gore-Tex fabric yet. The fabric inside feels nice and soft, and it does allow my body to breathe a little bit better than most waterproof breathable jackets, but I still can get a little bit of buildup inside of this jacket. Overall, I've been really happy with the Gore-Tex Shake Dry, and I look forward to getting a lot more use out of this jacket. On trips where it was dry, just quick passing showers, or a little bit windy, or very buggy, I've been wearing the Montbell Tachyon wind pants. These are a little under 2 ounces. Very thin 7 denier fabric, similar to what my Gossamer Gear tent has, so a lot of care is required with wearing these. I will not wear these bushwhacking. These are more for being on established hiking trails, but it has worked really well. It gives me great protection from the mosquitoes and black flies this year, and it works really well in the wind. I really like these pants, and this is what I've been packing most of the year with that Arc'teryx Norvan hoodie. So there you have it. That's some of the gear, clothing, and footwear that I've been using on the trail this year. Have you used any of it as well? I'd love to hear your experience with it in the comment below. Or if you have any questions on anything I shared in this video, feel free to leave a comment below also, or you can contact me at reachyoursummit.net. I hope you all found this video helpful. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, consider doing so because I'm always adding new content to it. I want to thank you all for watching, and until the next one, I'll see you on the trail.